Let's see. Now it says call to order by Alan. Is that right?
I believe that's what it says, but that's not correct. We should change
That's what I wondered.
it. Yeah.
Okay. I'll call the meeting of the commission to order, and I guess Alan, you do the roll call if I'm not mistaken.
I
Or
I can if that's the preference of the board.
that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, let me pull up a list. And I will be prepared to do so next time. My apologies. Here. Actually, we're all here, so I can just shoot. All right. Commissioner Rogers,
Present.
Commissioner Garland,
Hello, I'm here.
Dr. Hickman,
Here.
Commissioner Sutton,
Present.
and we're missing the gentleman.
That's all we
So
Michael.
I'm having a little trouble. I've got a nasty head cold, just to warn everybody, and my ears are all plugged up. So excuse me if I miss a cue. Let's see.
Yes, that completes roll call.
Okay, great. So our first order of business is to, I assume, approve the minutes from the last meeting on November 26th. Does anyone have any comments or clarifications regarding the minutes? Hearing no comments, I call if anyone wants to move that we approve those minutes.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Seconded.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I think we can do a verbal roll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. And so now the presentation of our benchmarking information is the next item of business. So I'll turn it over to the staff.
Leslie, did you want to speak to the overview?
Give me just a moment. I'll go ahead and share. Not sure. Can everyone see okay? So these are the proposed cities and factors to be analyzed, and this was sent out last week. Did everyone have a chance to review? Okay, so the initial cities that we did, there was quite the list there, but we ended up narrowing it down, and this was because of the full-time employees that we chose the selected cities there. I believe there's 12, and then the factors are listed there on the right as well. And I do apologize, Melissa's out of the office today, so we have Vanessa here. So if you have any questions, she can go ahead and speak to those.
I think the only question I have is just seeing like some of these city operating budget utilizing the most current data. Would it make sense to use the same year for each city, or do city budgets, not change drastically enough to worry about that?
So we're going to go ahead and take down the questions from the commission and then. But Vanessa, did you want to speak to that?
Oh, I'm comfortable with that. That's totally fine. I just taken a note as well.
I have a point of just, you can clarify things to me. The beginning of that column saying factors, seems like those are the factors that were taken into consideration in narrowing down the list of peer cities. Now maybe I'm wrong about that, but I assume that about halfway down where it says legislative body, full-time or part-time, that from there down, after that, the mayor's salary, mayor benefits, those were not factors that you used in selecting. Are these the cities? Or maybe you weren't using maybe these are just the information you gathered, the information points. I guess I'm just trying to understand what you mean by factors. Were they used to pick the peer cities, or are they just information points that you gathered about each of these cities?
The latter information.
And what factors did you use then? And you said full-time, and was it employees you use?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so you didn't use, for example, whether it was a part-time or a full-time mayor, or if they were the sort of form of governance in helping you select the peer cities.
We did, if you want to, I think it's like maybe the fourth or fifth bullet point, that would speak to the government structure. So yes, that is one factor that we took into consideration as well.
Oh, you did take that into consideration. It wasn't just an information point.
Yes, sir.
So one more time, the list of factors were used to narrow down. Some of these were used to narrow down the comparable group.
Correct.
Okay. Which ones were they again that were used to filter the cities?
That one I might have to get with you offline because I'd have to circle back with Marisa just to confirm.
Okay, but we'll have all but you will, you're going to produce like a spreadsheet that has all of this information on
Correct.
it for all
Yes.
these cities? Okay. Okay. I don't have any other question on that. Turn it back to you folks.
Okay, Leslie, if you want to scroll down, we also provided you folks with the survey questions. So I don't know if you had an opportunity to take a glance at them, but these are the same exact ones that we provided to you folks the last time, the first go around. So it's truly your roadmap if you're still comfortable with these, if you want to tinker them a bit, whatever you'd like.
Yeah, I'll jump in with a couple of thoughts off of this. Kind of going through in order. The first one looks like is the survey to go to the mayor. And on question 5, in your opinion, have the responsibilities required the mayor-elect position expanded, contracted, remained unchanged over the years? I would wonder about just changing that to be like over the last 2 years, so since the last assessment, so that every single go around we aren't, looking back over the last decade, but just since we did the last salary assessment, and then kind of following that pattern for all of the surveys with that question.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. I'll take that note.
Did we even get a new mayor since we changed the salary last time?
No, ma'am.
And I've got a whole list of notes here. I don't want to hog all the airtime, but
No, we're looking forward to this. I knew you would like this part. So yeah, I'm ready.
in the absence of anyone else jumping in here, the next question, question 6. Are there issues you want to pursue as mayor-elect but cannot due to time and/or resource constraints? If so, please explain. I'm not sure if this question is relevant. I think it could have been for the city council in years past, but at this point for the mayor, as we're assessing salary, I guess I'm struggling to imagine a scenario where paying the mayor more would alleviate any time or resource constraints, if that makes sense. So I guess my question for the commission is like, does it feel like this question is still relevant and helpful?
Because he's not really using his personal resources for those matters. He's using city resources, right?
Exactly. Yeah. If it's like, I need more staff, like, okay, well, we can't do anything about that. And again, my sense of that question is just that it would have been more relevant when there were elected officials who are ostensibly working part-time within the role.
Well, that's fair. I can remove it if that's what you guys would like. Everybody, okay, I see thumbs up. Okay, wonderful. Okay.
Cool. And then kind of same thing for question 12. In your opinion, will the cities of Albuquerque benefit from their elected city councilors being able to dedicate full-time attention to their roles? I know last time, specifically looking at pay, we worked to land in a place where the city council wouldn't necessarily need to have another income source in order for it to be livable. So given that, does this question still feel relevant and helpful for us?
Sorry, can you repeat the question number?
Question 12, and right now I'm in the mayor's survey.
Yeah, I think that one could be removed as well.
I'm struggling with that one a little bit. I'm trying to think of a way it might be. I mean, you make a good point, Carrie. On the other hand, if you kind of turn that around and think about it more in the present tense or something, does the city of Albuquerque benefit from elected officials being able to dedicate full-time attention to their roles?
Yeah, Kent, I put this in chat, but I'll say it out loud too. I like that, especially since it is a recent framing. Or sorry, a recent change.
I kind of feel like though we can't mandate that the city council does spend full time on it, on their job though. So I feel like that question was initially asked as we were trying to figure out like, should these people be getting, city councilors at least be getting full-time salaries or part-time salaries? So I feel like, I mean, I'd be fine with keeping it in two. I don't think it hurts to get that data point, and maybe that just reinforces every year why we should hold on to relatively, not full or not part-time salaries at least. So I'd be fine with that framing actually, now that I'm thinking about it more too.
In some ways, since we um, raised the salary with the intention that, I think it was a two-pronged, maybe I'm wrong about this, but there were two main impeti, if you will, for that. One was to motivate more people to run for office, and the other was to allow people to spend more time on the job. Um, when we're talking to the mayor, maybe I don't know if you want to answer this question, but do you think that has there been any noticeable difference in the the dedication? I don't want to say dedication, but uh, I'm not doing a good job of wordsmithing. Um, but is there a noticeable difference in the amount of time that city council members are able to devote to their job since the increase in salary? I don't know if he'd be the right person to ask that question to, but we're asking him other similar questions. I mean, that's kind of what we're trying to get at, I think.
I did see Molly's comment. Molly, did you want to speak up? Make sure you got time for that. No?
No, well, I mean, I'm holding a baby, so I can't even type. So like, have they spent more time? Like the ones who are getting paid more, have they spent more time? But if we're talking about the mayor, like, would he know that? Like, have they been working with him? And is the only thing that we could ask him that would be relevant is, have you spent more time working with city councilors?
Yeah, Molly, I appreciate where you're kind of going with that because I believe with the city council question there is like how much time do you spend doing your job? Where that gets broached. To Michael's point, like I'd be fine leaving it as is. Also, this is not one that I have a terribly strong opinion on.
Yeah, we are asking him to make a lot of judgments about the city council, and their time and the adequacy of the salary, and so I guess I'm not as bothered by it, except I'm not sure how we probably get a political answer anyway. So I don't know if it makes much difference.
Yeah, I think I see where you're coming from.
Well, shall we leave it as is for this year and then we can contemplate this again next time around?
Yeah, I think if we're going to keep it, which I think we should just do, we should reframe it and say, like, have the citizens of Albuquerque benefited from their elected city councilors being able to dedicate full-time attention to their roles.
Did we ask this last time?
Yeah, last time it was posed as like the hypothetical, the would citizens benefit from this? And so yeah, I'm also happy to have that slight rephrasing to it to bring it into the present.
Yeah, I almost think you could split it into two questions because this presumes that they're spending full time. So, you could ask, 12A or something. Uh, in your opinion, do city councilors is city council a full-time position? And then second, do you think that the city,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm struggling with the exact wording myself.
but and like Carrie mentions, not everybody's getting the increased city councilor salary yet. So the mayor might have feelings about people who are working on one salary, not realizing we're asking about the other ones.
I guess I'm sorry, I missed that from Carrie, back to my ears, I guess. So given that they only have,
Mhm.
only a certain some of them, maybe we ought to just leave it alone and use the would the city, or does the city? It'll be interesting to see how they respond, the people who made less money versus the people who make more money, but not that we're going to have a very big sample.
Well, and this is still also asking the mayor for his perception of that situation.
All right, I would vote that we make the change to have the citizens of Albuquerque and we continue on to other questions. We can come back to this if we need to.
I'm happy with that change.
I'm
Molly,
also,
Carrie, you're good with it? How
yes.
about you, Molly?
Yeah, I'm on board.
Okay, we'll definitely make that update. Saving the note.
Thank
Okay.
Does
Thank you.
anybody else have any thoughts on the mayor's survey before I plow ahead to the city councilors survey?
Just a small thing on number 10, it said, do you receive other forms of compensation such as investment, retirement, and outside employment? I know what we're after, but I suspect anybody who's going to be elected mayor, or most people, would have some kind of investment income, from a savings account or something. I'm not sure that that captures what we're after, or maybe it's okay, but maybe we could add something like significant, any other significant forms, or do you rely on other forms of compensation, such as investments, retirement, and outside employment?
Kent, I see where you're going with this, and I'm of two minds on it. On one hand, yeah, like I don't care about the $10 a year that you get from your savings account interest, whatever. Obviously, that's not a game changer. But I do worry that if we put on that qualifier like significant or substantial, that's going to mean very different things to different people. And I'm not sure, like it feels very conceivable that there could be one person for who like 10,000 a year is like, oh, that's not something that I rely on, that's not significant. And for another person, that's like a game changer for them. And so that would be my hesitation in adding that kind of qualifier.
I understand. That's why I kind of tried to change horses in midstream and say rely instead of significant. And I understand that that's somewhat subjective, but um, I think in some ways I kind of prefer allowing a little bit of subjectivity in there, whereas objectively, if you're going to answer number 10 truthfully, I would assume most people in the position of mayor, or city council would have to say, yes. Everybody answers, so there's no dispersion in the answers, so you don't have any, you don't really gain, how do you interpret that?
So Kent, is it the fact that it's a closed-ended question that's bothering you? Like, did you want to change it to an open-ended question?
To just, as mayor-elect, what other forms of compensation, such as investment, retirement, or outside employment, do you have?
Again, I would, I'm happy with what you guys want to do, but I would like to, I would really like to put the word rely in there, because that's, I think what we're after is that, I think the purpose of question 10 is to find out if these people are able to live on what they're making. Uh, right? Whether they have to rely on, or they do rely on outside income. Um, you know,
But kind of,
mean-
we're not really responsible for keeping people living at whatever level to which they've become accustomed. Like, our focus is, are we paying a fair wage for somebody doing the job of mayor?
And I think
right. And so one of the things, I think that the purpose of this, now maybe I'm wrong, I don't know what the purpose is, if it's not to determine whether the people that are in fact in these roles are making, there's some sort of natural filter because of the salary that we're paying isn't enough for them to oh, now Alan has a good thing here. City council, apparently they have to make disclosures. Do we have access to those, Alan? Financial disclosures?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, those are public records, so if the commission wanted access to the most recent ones, those could be acquired from the clerk's office.
So that solves that problem and we can get rid of 10, it seems to me.
Well, yeah, y'all are gonna kill me. I think that information, together with Ken's proposed phrasing of "do you rely on other forms of compensation," could be a helpful kind of snapshot if they're like, "No, I don't rely on it." It like I don't. Maybe I'm off here.
if I can, I think that that question actually originated from when we were doing the questions for city council, in which like it is more relevant to be asking people who at the time were making, $30,000 or something. And the idea was to see what level of, or to what degree the council members were relying on, as we mentioned, other forms of income. I think it makes sense to remove the question. And maybe what we're trying to ask, and I think Kent, you were kind of saying this, is like, what I would recommend we just put in there is how much do you as current mayor think that you need to do the job well, as your personal salary? Like just ask him flat out what number, you know, the current mayor thinks that a mayor needs, and then go from there. I mean,
I would ask for a range.
yeah, that's fine too. Because yeah, I don't think that number 10 needs to stay in there as it is at all if there's public record of any mayor's current financial number or finances. But then if the current mayor is like, yeah, but actually, anyone could do the job on $50,000 a year and they would do an incredible job, or really what we need is $500,000 a year. That's a different thing.
I'm happy with I think I'm personally happy with dropping 10 for the mayor and keeping it or something similar to it, and maybe with the words rely for the city council, because I think that's the tricky one for me. And I'm not sure we need to ask the mayor what the mayor thinks is the right salary. That's kind of our job in a way. And yeah, I don't know. I try not to ask questions that I don't want to hear the answers to. Uh, maybe that's it.
You're right, that is our job. So for now, do we want to then get rid of 10 on the mayor section and change the city council's question to rely or to include the word rely on?
That sounds good to me on both points. And as we come up on the city councilors survey, I know in the past we've gotten the results in aggregate, so that it's at least, anonymous. I think that for this year, it would be quite helpful to be able to split them out into counts, like a group of counselors that have had the updated salary, and then the group of incumbents who haven't yet gone through an election cycle, because otherwise we're going to get some really messy, unclear patterns.
I agree.
Bless you for saying that.
Good point on the counselors. Molly, are you okay with the dropping it and then doing okay? I think. Carrie, you got some more?
Oh boy, you know it. Where am I? Okay, so rolling into the city councilors now. I believe it's question 5, just that same flag as before. How have the duties changed over the last 2 years? And then this one that we'd kind of talked about before, and I'm so sorry, I already forgot where we landed, but question 9, in your opinion, would the citizens of Albuquerque benefit from their elected city councilors being able to dedicate full-time attention to their roles? Are we going to go ahead and let that roll as is, given the recent change? I think that's what we said we were going to do for the mayor.
I think the share screen's still on mayor, isn't it? Can we roll that down to the city council? Thank you. I'm technology challenged, so I can't do a split screen. I'm relying on this.
I think for city council, we leave as would, given that not all have had or not all seats have had the change. And then, for staff, maybe one of the questions we could ask for city council is just when were you most recently elected to the position? And we can use that to separate the data.
Good.
And then I
just making-
didn't.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, I'm just making that note just to make sure we include that for you folks.
Awesome, thank you. And then number 10, I'm kind of chewing on in light of the conversation. 10 and 11, in light of our conversation around the same questions for the mayor, I'm inclined to go ahead and let those both stand as is.
Yeah.
11 is the one that you wanted to change to add it to rely, right?
Yeah, I still would kind of
Yeah.
prefer the rely on what is it, 11, Molly? Now?
Yeah, I would be fine changing 11 to have rely.
I'm good for that.
Okay. I'll make that notation as well.
Thank you.
Carrie, another one?
That's all that I have for the city council. Any other thoughts from this crew on the city council survey before we roll into citizens?
No.
Okay. So moving into the citizens,
I
question
think on
number-
the citizens,
oh, what was that, Kent?
the citizens, I think the only thing I noted on it was that, I think,
I think you froze up for a second, Kent.
sorry, I'm,
You froze up for a second. I
oh,
hear most of what you said.
are the counselors' salaries correct on the citizens? I believe they're not. Like,
The mayor's isn't either.
yeah. Oh,
Oh yeah, thanks for flagging that, guys. I noticed that and was like, oh, of course they'll just be updated. They just pulled the survey from last year. But yeah, all of those numbers would need to be updated. But honestly, for number one, I would propose that we scrap that. Like, my recollection from last year is that, like, damn near everyone was like, less money for the mayor. And then we ignored that. So yeah, and kind of similarly, I'm not positive if the citizens of Albuquerque are the right group of people to answer question number two, or at the very least, I'd propose, those same kinds of guardrails that over the last 2 years qualifier. So I would strongly advocate for getting rid of question one entirely. And I'm on the fence about question number two, if it's worth having in the citizen survey.
yeah, I agree with that, and I think any of those, even, I gotta reread, but like, maybe it's easier to say what do we keep in, like 3 sounds pretty good to me, and 4, uh,
Yeah, I definitely like question 4 and question 5. Question 3, I would be curious about flipping that one to be kind of like on a scale of 1 to 10, or like, a scale of strongly disagree to strongly agree or whatever. But in your opinion, how heavily should the following factors be weighted in determining the salary for the position of mayor-elect? And then have some items like median income in Albuquerque, living wage analysis for Albuquerque, salary for mayors in other comparable cities, salaries and cost of living adjustments for City of Albuquerque employees, and then kind of an open end for other. Right now it's just an open end, but I'd be curious to see how citizens feel about the factors and the relative importance of the factors that we know we're going to be considering.
I think that's a great idea, the idea of sort of some kind of ranking, or I don't know about ranking them, but maybe sort of a weighting, like a 3, not important, pretty important, really important, I mean, breaking it down too fine might not be useful, but, and I think you could do just sort of that same question for the counselors, and I don't know if we need the rest of the questions. Let's make it like 2 or 3 questions, one for the couple for the mayor, 2 or 3 for the mayor, and 2 or 3 for the city council. Seems like it would be useful for us, and it wouldn't be calling on the citizens to weigh in on things that they may or may not, may be difficult for them, and for us to interpret what they're trying to tell us.
I think that's a great idea. And I also think that the simpler the survey, the better. If it's just a couple very similar questions where it's just a weighted scale. I think that's helpful. And I think that also, like, for me, removing, for example, question one, I was like, well, I mean, I still want to know what the citizens think should be done, just because it is, all of our city. But I think that, like, you're right in the sense that as question one is posted now and from last year, people are just going to say lower it, no more money than anything else. So I like the idea of saying what considerations should we have when discussing and identifying the salary for the mayor-elect. So I like the idea of just going to, here's a few factors that we want you guys to weigh in on, and how do you think we should weigh those in our decision or our conversations?
Okay, so we're looking at saying like, here's the factors for our or here's the factors for consideration for the mayor, and kind of having that, that scale from very unimportant through very important. Then do the same thing for city council. And then questions 4 and 5, Kent, I think that you had said that you liked those. I would also be inclined to keep those. Again, how does the salary established impact a citizen's decision to run for office? Does it present economic barriers to potential candidates for running for office? Do we want to keep those questions in for both the mayor and city council?
My thinking on that is that, in that case, the citizens they are the experts. They're the ones from whom we draw the potential candidates. So they're,
Yeah, well, and building off of that, Kent, when I went all the way down to question 14, I don't think that we asked this for the mayor, but we did ask it for city council, which again makes, oh no, we did ask it for the mayor. So anyways, the point is, right now the question is, in your opinion, do you feel that the established salaries for the positions of elected city councilors are sufficient to not require additional sources of income? On one hand, I'm worried that this is a little like too personal, so tell me what y'all think. But I'm wondering what if we change that to, would the current salary be livable for you if you had no additional sources of income? Again, to really hear from citizens, does this seem like it would be livable? But again, that's like a very personal framing, so I'm not sure that's right.
I think that would be addressed in like the weighted scale and how much citizens would want us to utilize a living wage analysis in our decision or discussion. I don't think we need that question personally. And I think I agree. It is kind of like, it's also the various kind of people that might answer that is obviously large. And so I think that we get a bunch of potentially varied responses that really don't, I think, end up helping us. So I'd rather just everyone say, maybe the average ends up being that we should really rely on median income to determine the mayor's salary. And that's what people say. And it's less about what they think is the number.
yeah, there's a couple of ways, we got to be careful that we don't. I'm trying to wrap my head around this a little bit. We focused on the salary being inadequate to compensate someone or to entice them to run, motivate them to run or preclude them from running. On the other hand, you also don't want a salary. There's another way of thinking of it, and that is you don't want the salary so low that somebody who's, qualified professional, would have to give up, would sacrifice too much to run,
Yeah, I mean, I remember from last year there was kind of a real duality where with the mayor, it's the like, well, what's the salary for the job? What all is involved? And with the counselors, it's kind of like, what's the floor that's livable? Um, so I'm not sure what to do with that, but it is, yeah, Kent, I think that you're exactly right. There are two very different questions here of between like what's the floor and what's going to be more appropriate and attract quality candidates.
Well, and with the counselors, like they have to be able to live off of it for what, the 2 years or 4 years that they're in office. So not just attracting them, but keeping them, willing to do the work. That's important too.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I feel like the sliding scale is still a good idea. If we could so that's one thing we should probably discuss is what factors do we want on there? And I think one of the factors should be to what degree should the commission, attempt to find a salary that encourages people to run for it or that attracts, other, high earning positions or people from high earning careers or fields or something like that. I'm sure there's a much better way to say it, but yeah, I still feel like we don't necessarily need to say, what do the citizens, I guess, want from it necessarily. It's more like if I'm, my next door neighbor, whoever down the street, and they're like, I, personally think that the citizen or the mayor's salary should be 100% pegged to the median average income in Albuquerque because I think that the mayor should only be paid well if we're all paid well or something like that. Maybe that's their opinion to have, and that's what they want really valued. But if there's someone else like, oh, you know what, I want to attract the, best earning person in all of New Mexico or all of the Southwest or America to come work for us, that's all I care about, then that's another opinion to have. And I feel like the easiest way to ask that is just to put it on a scale.
Michael, I just dropped some possible language into the chat as kind of the like on the scale of very unimportant to very important. Competitiveness with salaries for comparably complex jobs in the private sector. Man, when I was thinking about the scale, this is like one that I went back and forth on. I'm not sure how to identify comparable jobs in the private sector for this. I ended up settling with the, salaries for, those in other incomparable cities, and salaries and cost of living adjustments for the city of Albuquerque employees. I think that asking the question of like, what would this person be getting paid to do the same kind of work in the private sector makes sense. And I think it's worth considering that. I just don't actually know what roles we would use to benchmark that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree.
Also, it might be difficult to find, salaries from the private sector for, A, you got to identify what jobs they are, and B, then get the numbers. And also, I wonder about the word complex, maybe comparably jobs with comparable responsibilities, perhaps, uh, is a little alternative way of, um, that way to, and then not even specify private or public, because we're definitely, we're looking at we do get some information about, you know, the health of the head of some publicly traded companies, for example, and also things in the public sector, school districts and hospitals and universities and whatnot. And it seems like they're kind of similar jobs in terms of the responsibility and the oversight and the sort of policy making decisions. But whether those are more complex than the guy who's down there, timing my car with these new computer thing, gizmos and stuff. I don't know. I might have a shot at running a university department, but I would never, I'd die before I could ever time a car right now. So,
Kent, I'd be very on board with shifting that to probe around comparable responsibilities. So the Bureau of Labor Statistics is always great for this kind of thing, and you can find data for the Albuquerque Metro specifically. The buckets are pretty high level, and my recollection from the exact roles is that they tend to be pretty general, but you do have a couple of buckets here. One is management, one is business and financial operations. We might be able to do a little bit of probing in there. I feel like that those are probably the most relevant categories for what we're considering.
yeah, it seems I kind of forget about that data. I'm not used to looking at it. I think that again, kind of back to the idea about let's not ask a question unless we, want to hear the answer. If we can't get the right kind of data, then we and work with it. We don't want to, I think we want to frame that question in such a way that it, enlightens our use of some particular data we think we can get our hands on. And I think last time we did have information about, specific roles, school district presidents. Am I wrong about that? I think we had some of that. Hospital administrators, university administrators, different roles within the city, the fire chief and folks like that. And in some ways, I kind of like that kind of information rather than, and I don't know, the Bureau of Labor Statistics stuff. I think they brush things with they paint things with a pretty broad brush. I mean, you're looking at averages and whatnot, which is fine. But I also like that other kind of more specific kinds of information. But I think that the wording that of your question, if you kind of frame it toward responsibilities, is good. I think that's a good question.
Well, how about if we are able to get the same kind of benchmarking within the city of Albuquerque that y'all had provided us with last year? I agree that that was super helpful. And then I think that there is kind of an outstanding question here of if we do want to do any local benchmarking to non-city of Albuquerque jobs, and if so, even recognizing the numerous drawbacks that there are to Bureau of Labor Statistics data, do we feel good about using that as kind of our reference point for this? Because if not, then Kent, to your point of not asking questions that we're not going to be able to do anything with, I would hesitate to ask about, benchmarking to anything outside of the city of Albuquerque if we're not going to have any city of Albuquerque data that we're looking at, if that makes sense.
I think that makes sense to me.
So, Carrie, let me. So, you're saying that we could use in using this question the response, the background benchmarking information you would see as both Bureau of Labor Statistics information that's specific to Albuquerque or Bernalillo County or something. I don't know how they break that down. And also some of the same kind of roles, the same positions that we had last year, superintendent of the schools, the head of the hospital, the president of the university, or the fire chief, that kind of stuff. I just want to be sure I'm getting it.
Yes, that is my thought. And obviously, Michael and Molly, please jump in if y'all have another take on this.
I think I'm good with that. I will note I do need to get going here in about 2 minutes. Just as an FYI.
I think that I like that question a lot. I think this was a benchmarking statement so it's going to be, is this you would strongly agree or something that this is the right one of the metrics. This is very important or not important. I guess that was it. If I'm not mistaken, in our charter, if you will, our mission, it didn't it spell out some of the things that we looked at, salaries at other, the pure cities, the cost of living. I think it seemed like there were 4 or 5, and I'm just taking a wild stab at it, 4 or 5 criteria that we were charged with considering in whatever our founding document was. Is that right? Am I remembering that correctly?
Hello, Chair. Thank you. I'm looking at the charter and it's not in the charter. But I can keep looking through other documents, see if I find anything.
Kent, my recollection was that like in the opening presentation that they'd given us and in the kind of recap, we have the walkthrough of factors that have been considered in the past, but we're not necessarily beholden for all time to use those factors and only those factors.
Yeah, I never thought there was any limiting language in there, but I can't remember where I read that, but I thought it was actually something that was stated in, but maybe it's just a document. This is in the past. This is.
I mean, at the top of these survey questions are notes that, the commission is tasked with evaluating the salaries and not the performance of the individuals who hold the position. And then it also says the commission has the charter authority to consider all factors relevant to the salaries and is requesting your input. So maybe that's what you're thinking of.
But that's okay. Well, I might suggest in the interest of moving forward that the staff might be able to devise a list, put together a list of, whatever, half a dozen things that we've looked at in the past, and then include Carrie's language, and then with whatever, a 3 or 4 point scale ranging from not important to very important, and maybe pass that by the commission at our next meeting before we actually send it out. Would that be something in the interest of moving on that would be useful?
Well, I think, were we actually going to meet again before we had results to the surveys?
Yeah, I was going to ask, do we just get an email with proposed changes and go forward, or do we actually have to meet to approve before the questions get sent out?
Alan?
My apologies, I was reading last year's and I missed the question.
If we were gonna wait, one idea was to meet after the results from the survey come back. But the difficulty there is putting together this, this new question that prioritize, lets folks weight, citizens weight different factors that they feel should be, or in the judgment of the adequacy of the salaries. Can we have the staff put together a document, a question, a draft of that question, and send it out via email for the commission to look over, or does it have to be done in another meeting?
Okay, I understand the question now, Chair. Thank you. Yeah, the staff can send that out to you guys all at once. If they do so, I strongly recommend that they BCC everybody. That way there can be no accidental reply to all where you guys start, discussing this potential OMA issue. Although you guys don't really have to worry too much about OMA, but still we try to get, A+ in terms of transparency. And so, yes, that would be fine with you guys. I just recommend you don't crosstalk about it.
And then we could green light it via email also, again, just doing a direct reply, not a reply to all.
I think that, thank you for the question, Commissioner Sutton. I think that's kind of up to you guys since you guys aren't really bound by OMA. We would probably prefer that it was done in a meeting, just again, for full transparency, but then we don't invite the public to the meetings, so that's kind of meaningless. So I think you guys could do it via email if you wanted to.
I think it seems to me like in the interest of getting this done, and I don't think we're being non-transparent really. I mean, by approving it via email, since we've done quite a bit of discussion, and I think if the public's interested, they probably can tune into the recording of this meeting and get the flavor and some of the specifics of that particular question. And it's going out to the public anyway. Why don't we go ahead with what Carrie suggests and have the staff put together that question and send it out, and we can discuss it online. Yeah.
That sounds good to me.
Well, and yeah, to clarify, it sounds like we're not going to want to discuss it online. We will not want to discuss it via email. That would be pretty explicitly running afoul of the Open Meetings Act.
Yeah, we would just be approving it basically.
Mhm.
And I think if necessary, I mean,
Right.
sorry, Molly. Oh, I was just say if necessary, I mean, if it's just to formally approve the questions, or if we did want to discuss it, I think it's 72 hours notice. And if we just wanted to hop on for 20 minutes really quick, I'm sure we could do that too. But I'd be fine just approving it via email if it all looks good.
And if we approve it by email, they can send out the surveys and start collecting data, and then we can have our next meeting sooner,
Perfect.
right? Okay. I like that.
I guess I missed that. Alan, was Carrie's characterization wrong? I thought we could discuss it that in that particular instance if we just copied everybody on that, as part of an email forum, everybody on the commission. But no, we can't do that.
Thank you, Chair. So OMA is concerned about rolling quorums where, yeah, if you guys were all discussing the email thread, that would be considered a quorum of you guys discussing public business, the extent you guys are even subject to OMA. And so that would be problematic.
Can we then individually, if we see something in one of the questions, a wording change, like some of the little things that we talked about here, we can individually send those comments back to staff?
Absolutely, Chair. Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to be sure I got the ground rules right. Okay.
it just becomes a problem when you guys start talking to each other. Because if you send it to Carrie and then, or sorry, Commissioner Sutton, and then Commissioner Sutton sends it to Commissioner Garland, then you guys have created a rolling quorum.
Cool.
Thank you. And I did just want to flag Commissioner Sutton's comment that I agree with a lot of the notes. And I want to make sure staff was able to see that as well on some of the factors to consider. Thank you. I see Leslie saw it. So. Any other business? Should we motion to
Oh,
close?
Kent, it looks like you're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, I agree. Carrie's got some good stuff in the chat. I assume that the staff can see that and will be informed as they kind of draft this new question. And maybe I should ask if any of us have any questions regarding this survey, and maybe if Leslie and if others, the staff may have questions given this long discussion.
I don't think we have any questions. We just have our marching orders. We'll go ahead and make all of the edits accordingly and then email it out to you folks. With the holidays, we might be able to get it out by the end of the month. If not, would it be okay, say the first week of January? I know we have some team members that are taking time off, and I just want to be straightforward. Okay, I see the I see the thumbs up. Thank you.
Great. Okay, I think that ends the discussion of the survey. Again, I'm sort of I don't have a split screen, so I can't look at the agenda. What's the next? We can go back to that. The meeting.
The next item is general public comments. And I understood there was none. Cool.
Are there any?
No, Leslie's shaking her head.
Okay. Any other business? Anyone needs to bring up at all? Okay. Hearing none, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
All
Bye.
opposed? All opposed? Okay, we're adjourned. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks,
Thank you all.
everyone. Have a wonderful year end.
Vanessa, Leslie, yeah. Merry
Happy
Christmas,
holidays and Happy New Year.
everyone.
Merry
Yes.
Christmas, happy holidays.
Happy
Appreciate
holidays.
it all. Bye.
All right,
Bye-bye.
take care.